All right, I'll say good day to you this day of your time. This transmission is basically titled The Thanksgiving Message, since we understand that this is your time of year in which you honor the idea of giving thanks and appreciation and gratitude. Not that you cannot do that every day, not that it wouldn't be wise to do that every day, but we understand that you have seasons in which you focus on certain ideas, certain concepts, this being the one of giving thanks. So we will at this point remind you of something we have discussed before to make sure that you remind yourself to remain in alignment with the attitude of gratitude. And that is what we have termed before the AAA scenario of acknowledgement, appreciation, and allowance. The idea is in acknowledging what you do have, what you are appreciative of, what you are grateful for in your life, and not acknowledging the idea of the negative. In other words, not focusing on the idea of the things that you have in the past defined in a negative way. Not that you cease to recognize when something may be negative, but that you remain in a state of grace, acknowledging what you do have rather than acknowledging what you do not have. And remaining in that state of gratitude and appreciation will again guide you and accelerate you in your life, where synchronicity can open up in miraculous and magical ways by staying in that state of appreciating all the connections you have, all of the things in your life, all of the people, all of the experiences, everything that you do have, that you do experience, that comes into your life, acknowledging it in a positive way as having a reason to be there, even the things you don't prefer, because again, you know it's got to be there for a reason. So I remind you of this day, so that you can stay in a state of thanks and allow yourself to feel the appreciation and gratitude for what is given to you, for what you have attracted in your life, and not focus on what you do not have. Because when you focus on what you do have, more will come, because you're opening the door for that. Focusing on what you do not have closes the door and prevents anything you truly need from coming forward to be recognized by you consciously. So allow yourself to remain in that state of acknowledgement and then appreciate what you have, and then allow what needs to come, for it will be what you need at that moment, even again, if it's what you don't prefer. It's got to be there for a reason, and it may give you the opportunity to examine your belief systems, which is always important, and a main step in the formula that we have shared with all of you. Recognizing your beliefs, recognizing how to stay in a positive state so you can gain the benefit from whatever arrives, whatever shows up, whatever manifests in your life. For it is always capable of being used in a positive way. Again, we're not saying that you start calling negative things positive things. You can still observe something to be negatively oriented or negatively created from fear, from negative belief systems. But by staying in a positive state, even with that recognition, you allow yourself the opportunity to use what manifests in a positive way. And this is part of allowing the idea of what needs to come next to come more easily, more effortlessly. So acknowledging, appreciating, and allowing the AAA formula will help you remain in a state of grace and remind you every day of what you are blessed to experience in your life, and remind you why you chose this life, why you chose to have these experiences to accelerate your soul's experience of growth. For as you know, physical reality, being the experience of density, being the experience of time and space, affords you the opportunity to discover yourself from new points of view, new perspectives, in ways that cannot be done in spirit, in ways that allow you to accelerate more quickly, to grow more quickly, by facing the challenges that come into your life head on, more directly. And staying in that state of grace, and staying in that state of appreciation and gratitude for what comes your way, will allow you to work with it constructively, creatively, positively, and transform anything that comes to you, created out of negativity, into something that you can use and apply in your lives positively, and allow you more clarity, more sentience, more awareness, and more clear consciousness of what your life path and theme is all about, to allow you to be more of who you truly are, to align with your true core frequency and vibration. So this Thanksgiving and every day, allow yourself to acknowledge, appreciate, and allow your life to flow easily, effortlessly, joyfully, peacefully, and lovingly. And you will allow yourself to experience a growing sense of grace and gratitude and appreciation for all things in your life, as they reflect more and more the state of being that is aligned with your Thanksgiving message. In return for allowing us to remind you of the AAA formula, so important in going into the window of open contact, in return we ask now, in what way may we continue to be of service to you? You may begin with your questions and your dialogues, if you wish.
Hello, Bashar.
Good day, good day.
How are you?
Perfect, and you?
I'm very well, thank you.
All right, what would you like to discuss this day?
The first one is about following my excitement.
Yes.
I spent 3 months in Australia a few years ago and loved everything about the place, the wildlife, the people, the landscapes, and I'd love to live there, but I've not found a way of going there with the visas and things. I don't meet the criteria. I'm not sure whether it's because it's not part of my life path,
Well,
or
maybe
if it's
not
just
yet.
timing.
Maybe not yet. It could be just the timing. Remember, the formula states that you act to the best you can on your excitement. And if you can't act on the thing that seems to be the most exciting, you act on what you can that you are able to act on, which could ultimately lead to your ability to act on other things that you are excited about. So if you have really allowed your creativity and imagination to attempt every possible way of going to Australia, being that as a representation of acting on your highest excitement, and you find that you cannot do it, then you have to remember there is both green light synchronicity and red light synchronicity. The green light synchronicity being that which you are capable of taking some action on, and the red light synchronicity not being negative in a sense, but simply saying this is not the path to take, this is not the step to take right now, therefore it could be a matter of timing. So stay focused in the excitement of being where you are excited to be, but remember that there can be no insistence. If you find that there is nothing you can do to act on it right now, act on what you can act on. And if it is necessary for you to wind up in that place on your planet, then acting on the next thing you are capable of acting on will ultimately lead you to have the ability to do so. Do you understand how this works more clearly now?
Yes, that really helps. Thank you.
All right. Anything else?
Yes, I have a question about a fear I've had for a long time, since a child.
Yes.
And I just need some help in finding a way to overcome it. I think it's related to a trauma I experienced as a child.
Such as?
It affected me when I was on swings, trampolines, and then later on in life, it started affecting me with driving. So I haven't driven for years, and I'd love to. I love to have the freedom to travel everywhere, but this fear is limiting me, and I'm not sure how to overcome it.
Well, what is it a fear of? What are you afraid will happen?
It's to do with the speed. I'm fine when I'm driving in lots of traffic and in towns, but as soon as I get on a road where I have to build up speed, it's something about the speed of having to come and
And what are
face
you afraid
something.
will happen if you go too fast?
Yes, it's this fear that just instinctively kicks in.
Fear of
There's
what?
something fear. I'm not sure.
Are you afraid you're
Um,
going to crash?
See, logically, I know I'm a very good driver, and it just doesn't make sense, this fear to me.
Well, obviously, it
So,
must make sense to you on some level, or it wouldn't be there. You're
yeah,
holding on to it for some reason, and it could have to do with the idea energetically of fearing that you're going ahead of yourself, that you're not staying in the present, that you're going too fast, that if you go faster, if you accelerate in your vibration and your energy, that something will be missed, you will leave something behind, something bad will happen. We'll relate this symbolically to the idea of your own growth and acceleration. Is there something about the idea of growth and acceleration energetically and spiritually that you are dubious about in terms of staying a little bit in the slow lane so that you don't go too fast for yourself, that you are afraid you might miss something or cause harm to yourself or someone?
um, I'm not sure. I'm not aware of any hesitation. I mean, I'm excited to explore and move forward, and all the spiritual aspects of moving to the new earth. All
All
that's
right,
exciting to me.
let's change the subject a little bit while still remaining in the general arena. What are you excited about in life besides what you've already talked about?
Wildlife, animals, plants. I just love being in nature. I would love something, a job, you know, working in the habitat, helping the habitats,
And is that something
helping
you can
animals.
act on?
I do to the best of my ability. I spend as much time in nature when I'm around animals. I just love to be around animals, any creatures.
All right, all
I
right,
do as
one
much as
moment,
I can.
one moment. Is there some more specific way you can be of assistance with regard to the idea of wildlife?
I did start an ecology course at university, but I found the chemistry and physics too stressful, so I wasn't able to continue.
Yes, but I'm talking about the idea that there are particular places that actually assist animals, harbor animals, treat animals with kindness and love. And in that sense, are there places like that that you are attracted to be at?
Yes, I'd like to work at nature reserves.
Where are you living now?
I'm in Stratford upon Avon in England.
Is there any such thing in your area, or do you need to go to another area to be able to work at such a place?
I need to go to another area to do that, and part of the issue is the driving to get there.
Well, you don't have to drive fast to get there, do you?
Well, yes and no, because
Well,
some of the
what's the yes
roads
and what's
you
the
have to
no?
go. Pardon?
What's the yes and what's the no?
I don't have to go fast, but on certain roads you really do need to go a certain speed because you'd be causing an accident, and
Yes, we
lots of people.
understand. We understand. Are you saying there are no other roads, no other ways to get there that would be accommodating the speed that you are comfortable at?
Um, See, even on country roads, country lanes, there tends to be like a speed limit of 50 mile an hour, and that for me is too fast.
What is your ideal speed when driving?
Probably about 30 mile an hour.
All right. Now, let's go back to the idea of, is there some place that you can move to that would allow you a shorter distance of travel to working at the places that we're talking about?
Yes, that would be an option.
Well,
Yes.
what is that?
Well, there's places nearby like Warwick, and I think they have nature reserves which I could go and work at.
Then why aren't you?
Yes, I could help voluntarily.
All right, well, why aren't you then?
Um, Good question.
Oh, thank you. Do you have a good answer?
Yes, I think because I've travelled around a lot and I've finally settled in Stratford upon Avon, I love it here. It's the upheaval of moving again when it's not really the place I want to move to.
All right, one moment, one moment. Where is it you said that you could go and volunteer? Is it close?
It's not too far. Yeah, it's not on like a bus route. But yes, it would mean driving.
But can you drive there at your comfortable speed?
I'm not sure because I
Why don't you
haven't
find out?
looked too
Well,
much
you
into
see,
the.
here's the idea. You're not really acting on your excitement. Not really, because you're allowing your fears to hold you back, and it's actually preventing you from trying to find options that would allow you to take action on what you say is your excitement. So let go of the fear in the sense of, oh, I can't do this because A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Find ways to get around it. Find places that you would like to be working at that would allow you to travel there in a comfortable manner. But you're not even doing that.
I think it's because of the hesitation of driving again. That's what's held me back.
Yes, I know. That's what I just said. But it's your expectation that you have to drive a certain way to get there that is holding you back when you could be looking for places you don't have to drive quickly to get to.
Yeah.
So we would suggest that if you're truly passionate and excited about doing what you say you're wishing to do by working with animals or in a reserve, then allow yourself to keep looking for places that are close enough and accessible enough to your driving at the speed in which you are comfortable.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, I'll do that.
All right.
Thank you
You are welcome. Does that help you?
very much. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
It is our passion and our pleasure. You're welcome. Aveo.
Aveo.
Hello, Bashar. Thank you for taking the time to answer a couple questions I have in regards to what we experience after death and pasts changing once I truly change the present. In regards to life after death, it seems boring. It seems that it would get old just reflecting upon the 100 or so years we spent alive on Earth for all eternity. Can you please somehow help me with maybe an analogy or something to allow me to understand what it is like after death to make it not so unappetizing?
Your definition of the afterlife is what, in a sense, is boring. You don't ruminate on your physical life on earth for 100 years and more for eternity. You go through your life review relatively rapidly, and you are able to make other choices very quickly of experiencing whatever it is you wish to experience. If you really wish a crude analogy, it's like going from the parking lot at your Disneyland into the park when you die, and having all sorts of choices of rides and experiences, just to use that analogy that is something representative of what you have on earth. It isn't boring at all. It is the exact opposite of that. You have an amazing array of choices laid out before you of what to experience. So open up your imagination and don't buy into outdated definitions or limiting definitions of what the afterlife is like. You have a misinterpretation of that idea.
And in regards to the past changing, once I truly change, what about scars? If I have a different past, shouldn't I not have the same scars? Thank you so much for your help.
Whatever it is you believe you need for the continuity, connections to the idea of the past, you will recreate them in the present over and over and over again. If you truly change to a point where you no longer need that continuity connection, yes, your scars will simply not exist in the new person that you are. Many people have seen this phenomenology occur in what are called multiple personality situations, where one particular personality may have a physical representation of something, and when they shift that personality, the physical representation is no longer there. So the idea is you keep recreating it because of an idea of connection to the past and continuity that you believe is necessary for you to live in physical reality. But yes, it's possible that it would go away or never exist in the person you've become if you change to that degree, if you no longer need that continuity connection.
Oh, hello, Bashar.
Good day.
Greetings. It is James. It is I. I am calling you from the Sacred Valley of Peru. And I have some questions for you. It's nice to speak with you, by the way.
And you
I've
as
had
well.
such a great ride in the past many months since the last time we spoke. And it's been quite a ride. We've been ringing your doorbell. So here we are. And now we're getting to talk to you.
What would you like to discuss?
Well, one question I have is about the future self. And while I'm in the physical, how does that work exactly in the physical to meet him together? Can we do it together as well as like what the channel would do with you? Is it possible?
Yes, it can be done in this way. Again, the idea is that there are an infinite number of probable future selves with regard to the path that you are creating. So it's simply getting in a state of desiring to have that contact in whatever way actually works best for you, and allowing whatever probable future self is most representative of that particular connection to occur in whatever way it needs to in perfect timing. Again, many times you may have already connected to the future self with downloading ideas and information and concepts that you may have thought came from nowhere or everywhere, may have actually been directed by the future self. In a lot of cases, the future self can send information back to the so-called past self to help the past self up the ladder without you even knowing that it came from the future self.
Yes. Well, that's what I've been experiencing with Ely, as I had called him for many years now. And I have been experiencing visitations on Sasani in nature, and it's a looping of an image that I have, and he is guiding me. And the guidance is my intuition is that it's going to a temple. It's going to a building that's on Sasani.
On Sasani.
Sasani.
The Sasani are the people. Sasani is the planet.
Thank you. Thank you. And being here in Peru, is there a connection to an ancient structure that is on Sasani that you have mentioned? And is that connection here by any chance?
It is. Now remember that structures on Sasani are not always permanent, but there's always an energetic template or a representation of any structure that has ever been built, even if temporarily. And yes, there are some strong connections to Peru, some of which we are allowed to discuss and some of which we are not allowed to discuss.
Okay, so I guess the latter will apply. Yes, so we're just investigating that and having a really good time, just exciting to sit anywhere in this land, in this place. And the energy is very intense, and it's an open doorway, so it's wonderful that way. I appreciate it. I'd like to ask you a little bit about shamans that you have talked about before. Do they play on a different playing field, if you know what I mean? Is there, as far as the astral and the different levels of existence, where are they? Because I've experienced many things where, there's engagements there.
Yes. Yes, of course. When you reach a certain level of understanding and awareness of your consciousness, you may allow yourself to become aware of the different levels of yourself and your consciousness that do exist on those different levels you're referring to, such as astral and so on and so forth, and become more connected in communication and application with those levels of your consciousness. So yes, of course, if you want to say they play on a different level, yes.
Yes. So the interactions that happen at that level, from shaman to shaman, curandero, how does that work? Because I've experienced it being real, but then there's this, my own belief system is there as well.
All right. Well, understand, and your own themes are there too. It's not always just about the idea of the belief system limiting you. The theme itself may say it's not relevant for you to experience a certain thing at a certain time until later. But the idea is, it's not that all of you aren't doing that. You all exist on all those different levels. It's just that the shaman has become more aware of it.
Okay. So there's no engagement of shaman to shaman. It's like darts and arrows. We hear these stories and the legends of etheric battles happening from shaman to shaman.
No, not in the way that you mean it. Some of those things and interactions may translate into physical reality as if they are battles, but no, not really. Not in the way you actually mean that as a human being. There are engagements, there are decisions, there are co-creations that play out archetypally in a way that filters down into human consciousness and may seem like a battle, but it's not the kind of battle that you actually think of when you're talking about physical reality.
Okay. Yes, it's a fascinating subject, Bashar, I am grateful in this way. The resonance that came through me to get here, to be here, to talk to you in this way has been, I don't know if anybody can understand it. It's very intense, very strong energy. And I know that it's meeting your frequency. My question really is nothing but a comment to say thank you and how grateful I am in the journey that I've been on in the past 3 years. I've been kicking and screaming. I've been 49%, but we understand what the 51% means. That keeping it, turning it into the positive.
Yes. We thank you and our deep appreciation to you as well. Continue on. Good day.
Ta'atu.
Ta'atu.
Hello, Bashar. My name is Delcy. I live in Brazil. And my question is, if everything happens here and now and there's no past nor future, and past and future are just parallel realities, does that mean that, for example, yesterday I ate chocolate? Does that mean that I am still eating chocolate in another parallel reality? Like in a loop, forever eating chocolate? I traveled last week. And so does that mean that I'm still traveling in another parallel reality, forever traveling like a loop? And if that's right, can I develop a technology to visit these parallel realities that look like my past and create the illusion of time travel? Is that possible? Thank you. Kisses. I love you all.
Yes, that's possible because that's what time travel is. You are perceiving other realities. You are shifting to other realities, and in a certain way that gives you a sense of relevance between that reality and what you consider to be your own timeline. But you're not stuck. And remember that when you say I, that's not you anymore. That's another person. Even though they may look like you, even though they may be acting like you did in the past, they're not you. They're having their own experience in their own timeline. It's not perceived as a loop. And they're not you anymore. So you can't say, am I doing the same thing over again? You're not. You're moving forward just as they are. But they're sharing a similar frame to one that you shared, passing through in their timeline that may lead to someplace similar than where you're going, or it may lead to someplace completely different. But that's what time travel is simply shifting to parallel realities that may look like your past, but are their own realities that are simply out of sync with yours.
Hello.
Good day, good day.
Hi, Bashar. I'm super excited to be here with you. Thank you for doing it with us and spending time with us and teaching us.
It is our passion and our pleasure to do so. We thank you in deep appreciation for the co-creation of the interaction. What would you like to discuss this day?
I have a few questions about dreams in general, but I'm super excited to be here with you. I just need to say it. So thank you so much again.
All right.
When I was about 5 or 6 years old, I had this reoccurring dream that a man with this 80s mustache would come into my house, take me out of my bedroom, take me to the basement of our building, out of my family apartment, chop me into pieces, put me in a suitcase, and walk around with it. And it was exactly the same man, and it was exactly the same dream for like about a year, and then it stopped. And I've always been very sensitive. I can sense a lot of things. I can see things. To this day, I have a lot of strange dreams. So I wanted to know, like, what was it, if we can talk about it?
All right. Well, that particular dream symbolically is the idea of going from spirit into physical reality and having to create a compartmentalized version of your consciousness in which to operate in physical reality. So it's kind of like your higher mind saying, in order to be physical, you kind of have to break yourself apart, but I will carry you around and you will be safe. It's just that you will be, in a sense, in pieces in order to explore physical reality, because you have to create compartments in your consciousness and you won't be functioning like a whole being for a while. But eventually you'll be able to bring yourself back together. But in the meantime, I will carry you around in this safe suitcase and no harm will come to you.
Okay, so in a sense, it's not necessarily a negative dream, because that's kind of how I interpreted it throughout the years, that maybe something happened, maybe some kind of abuse or whatever.
Well, it's a negative mechanism being used in a positive way and being explained to you, because you do have to use a negative mechanism, which is the idea of limitation and separation, in order to experience physical reality, because you are putting limitations on your larger consciousness in order to have a physical experience. But it's just symbolic of the fact that from the point of view of a spirit, it does seem more confining. It does seem more limiting, and it may be experienced by the physical mind at first as if something detrimental is being done to your consciousness, when it's just being explained to you that this is what is necessary in order to experience physical reality. But the suitcase represents the idea that the higher mind still has you safely encased in a way that you are being guided properly, so that again, you will always recover and discover yourself and pull yourself back together, which is why the dreams ended.
Mm-hmm. Great. So another question similar to this one, where about 7 years ago, I had a dream, and in my dream, I was dreaming that I woke up in my own apartment and I went to my bathroom, the bathroom that was my bathroom. And in it, I saw a being, and I'm very tall, I'm like about 6'4", and the being didn't fit into the bathroom. So it must have been like about 7 feet tall or like 6'8" or so. And the being was bending forward to fit into the bathroom. And I was very, very scared of the being, and it was a male. I don't know how I know it, but I know it. And the being said to me, "Oh, I know you're not ready yet." And then the dream or the experience ended. And can you talk about that a little bit, if possible?
Yes, again, you have different connections to different guides, different ETs, different dimensional beings that are more than happy to reflect to you your progress in life. So again, it's a little bit of a symbol, not that the being didn't present itself in a larger way because that's its natural state, but it's a little bit more of a symbol that to some degree you're growing, but the idea of your full understanding of yourself still can't fit within the parameters of the belief systems in your physical mind, but you're making progress.
Okay, that's a really good answer. Thank you. And so what about the radiation marks or whatever happened that I had on my body underneath my arm after, and that stayed for like about, I don't know, 6 months, 7 months, maybe up to a year? Is that an abduction thing? Or?
That's a little different. Yes, that's more of an encounter with the idea of the Greys because you are part of the hybridization agenda.
Okay, and I thought so. So my whole idea, I kind of understand the answers that you're offering, and I'm very, very grateful for it. But so since I was little, because of the dreams that I've always had, I have problems sleeping, because when I fall asleep and I close my eyes, I see things. When I see things in general, then I fall asleep and I have nightmares, or I have encounters where I feel taken and or overtaken, and then I wake up from it with fear.
All right. Again, this goes back to the idea of the experiences and encounters with the Greys as part of the hybridization agenda. Because again, your physical consciousness feels like it's out of control when you are taken. And when you are part of the experimentations that were done to remove DNA to be used in the hybridization agenda, you have to understand this is not being done maliciously. It is something you agreed to from a higher level of consciousness. You are participating, and if you are willing to allow yourself to feel more of a connection to what is going on and more connection to the decision you made to be of assistance in the evolution of the earth through participation in the hybridization agenda, you can open up to have these experiences or remember them in a way that is more on your terms, in a way that is less fearful, in a way that allows you to know that you are always in control. So just ask for more awareness, ask for more memories to come back in an aware way that will allow you to know that you made this agreement and that you can experience these things in a way that is less fearful for you, that you can do it on your own terms and recognize your true conscious participation in the evolution of humanity on the earth. When you go to sleep, open up in love and accept the idea of your choices and allow yourself to ask for more participation, more consciously, more responsibly, and on your own terms. It will eventually smooth out.
Thank you. And can you tell me who the being was who didn't fit in the bathroom? Or it wasn't specifically being was presented to me in a way that I could understand it?
It was presented in a way you could understand it in participation with your guides and your higher mind.
Thank you very much. And so a question just briefly on the history of Neanderthals and like Homo erectus and humans. How long did it take them to create it? So like, how long did it take them to create us? Was it on a ship? Was it here on Earth? Were they in a laboratory? Like, how did that happen? And didn't they disappear
Yes.
because they mixed with us enough for a long period of time? That, like, can you tell us a little bit more on that?
Mostly on Earth in laboratories. It took a few thousand years, actually, overall, to refine it, but not many. And in the idea is they were recalled because it is something they shouldn't have done according to their own laws. So that group was recalled, and then humanity to some degree was guided by those who recalled them, who now realized it was their responsibility to guide humanity, at least to a certain point, while at the same time sort of remaining hands off to allow humanity to evolve on its own, but with some guidance.
And is there anything in the history that you can tell us that we believe strongly in that it's incorrect? I'm sure there's a lot of it, and you have shared this before with us, but anything that we could just briefly discuss today, anything that humanity believes in that it's not correct for our reality, our version of reality, the one that we are in?
When you say not correct,
or it's not true, or hasn't happened, and we believe that it has, or...
Well, many people on your planet believe that the Earth is flat, and it's not. Many people believe that you have not traveled to the moon, and you have.
Okay. Okay, that's good enough. Thank you so very much. I appreciate it.
You are welcome. Aveo.
Aveo, thank you.
Hello, Bashar. This is Kasia from Denmark. First of all, I want to say thank you for this amazing contact crystal, what I received recently in this beautiful red box. And this was a gift for my husband. And he followed you many years, so it was a wonderful gift. And my question to you is today about my experience. I had a free experience during the meditation in different locations, in different apartments, when I was meditating, and somehow I connect with some kind of energy so powerful that I simply was lying on the floor in a split second and sweating. So can you explain a little bit what kind of energy I connect with? And so thank you very much for today and have a good day. Aveo.
Our energy, but we exist on a much higher frequency than you do, and therefore it may take some time to get used to the higher frequency. Until you do, it might cause those kinds of reactions in your body which is operating at a lower frequency. But by practice and your preferred meditation technique or permission slip, you will raise your frequency to become closer to our frequency and no longer experience such a difference between us. Good day. Good day.
Good day. Thank you. First, I wanted to say thank you for being so patient and kind with people who seek your counsel.
I am not patient at all because I live in the moment and I do not need to be patient. I enjoy every moment.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you. I did have a few questions. The first has to do with two interactions with gray beings.
Yes.
The first one was, I think it was a dream. And then in the dream, I woke up and there was a very young gray standing at the foot of my bed. And it was strange to me because I felt like I had a really strong maternal feeling toward it. So I guess my question is there any sort of connection, or was it a dream?
No, it is a connection and a memory, although in a different reality. It's not exactly a gray being, though many hybrids actually do have many gray qualities. But it was a hybrid child of yours.
Okay. In this life, as I know now, as this person, will I be able to have any other sort of interaction with it, or?
There's a high degree of probability in the near future when the hybrid children come to live among humans on Earth.
Okay. Okay. The second was the other day when I was meditating. I was opening myself to have communication, and there was what I interpreted to be a gray, and it felt like a female energy that came through, and it was a very brief interaction. I felt like she was like very wise, like she held some sort of a station, and the name Alora was said.
Yes.
Can you give me any further information on that?
Every single person that is part of the hybridization agenda does in some way have a gray counterpart. This was a gray counterpart. In other words, it travels in family lines not only in humans on Earth, but in the idea of the mutated humans called the Greys from the parallel reality Earth. So in a sense, Alora is you in another reality.
Okay, that makes sense. And so this is a communication I'm able to tap into and to keep exploring and...
Make that a statement and it will be true.
Perfect. Thank you so much. The last, well, no, I actually have two more things. One, I had a very vivid dream last night where I was resuscitating a stillborn baby. And I started massaging its chest in a circular motion. The word I think that I was saying was SSAO. Does this make sense to you, or do you know what this is?
Again, this is to some degree a memory of an encounter with a hybrid child that you were asked to assist with in bringing it to fruition. And you are using the vibration of connection to us, Esasani, to allow yourself to raise its frequency to the point where it could survive.
That's so amazing. Okay, thank you. The last thing I had was this has kind of been an issue my whole life. It's just come in the past couple of years. I'm really trying to be very self-aware about it and work through it. And it's this relationship that I have with money and finances, security, feeling like something's going to happen and I'm not going to have the resources to be able to this has just been a theme like my entire life.
All right. Do you remember or have you heard us talk about how many forms of abundance there are?
Yes.
So why are you limiting your abundance? By focusing only on one way in which things can be done. It's true, when certain things happen, you may not have as much of that resource called money that you think you need, but you always will have all of the resources you need if you relax your insistence that money's the only way in which certain things can get done, and start allowing the other forms of abundance like synchronicity and communication and imagination and trading and being given a gift to come to the forefront and fill in the gaps where the money falls short, because it doesn't need to be any more than that which arrives. Does this make sense?
It does.
But
I'm trying to figure out how to cycle out of that. Like, I'm really good about being able to switch my perspective. And if there's something that I feel like is negative coming in or not true to the experience that I want, switching the trajectory. I just don't understand why this is still, I feel like I'm smarter than this. Like, I know better, but this is still.
All right, but remember how this works. Remember the motivational mechanism we have talked about. If you hold on to a negative belief system, a limiting belief system that doesn't serve you, it's because you have another belief that says that if you switch, something worse will happen. And that's the stronger belief. Therefore, you keep limiting yourself because you believe that to switch on the motivational mechanism, to change that belief, will actually cause you harm. So you have to find out why you believe that letting go of that limiting perspective on money and broadening your perspective on abundance will actually allow something worse to happen than playing it safe and holding on to only money as the way in which certain things need to get done. You have to find out what benefit you are getting from holding on to that limited belief, because you wouldn't hold on to it if you didn't believe there was a benefit to doing so. And the benefit is usually a belief that something worse will happen if you let that belief go. Do you understand? That's how it works, mechanically speaking. So what are you afraid might happen? Do you feel that it is really true, that it is really more likely, more probable than any other reality, that if you try to broaden your definition of abundance, that somehow you will be destitute? Somehow things will not work for you?
No, I feel like I believe the opposite, and I have been given some like really great ideas, like
Yes.
for a story. Like, I love writing. Like, there are so many things I can channel. I've helped a lot of people in positive
All right,
ways. by
all right,
understanding
all right,
this.
all right. So why is this different? Why is the definition of this relationship different than any other where you say you know that you can shift your perspective? What belief do you have that makes this subject more difficult to shift your perspective on? What have you been trained to believe? What have you been trained to believe about the idea of money and finances?
I guess that there's just,
Don't guess. Don't guess. Think back.
yeah, that there's lack. Yes, it's the way I was raised. Yes.
All right. And so it's very powerful. So if you let that go, do you have a belief that in some way, shape, or form you will be dishonoring who taught you these things? That it will cause a break between you if you don't think the way they thought?
Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like because our relationship has been strained at points.
That'll be strained even further if you let this idea go. Yes?
Probably.
And you're afraid of that, correct?
In a way. Mm-hmm.
All right. Then that's what you have to work with, is understanding that it is more important to be yourself. And whether the other person understands that or not, that's their issue, not yours.
Yeah.
And that you actually would be honoring them, whether they understand that or not, by being your true self. So you have to be comfortable with the idea and the understanding that just because someone might be displeased or strain the relationship between you while you are attempting to be more of your true self, that's not your issue. That's their issue. I'm not saying you have to do this deliberately to hurt someone or to put a strain on the relationship, but you can't be responsible for what they choose to feel or how they choose to react that limits and curtails your ability to be your true self. You have to let that go. You cannot be responsible for their choices. You can only be responsible to them by being who you truly are and letting them know who they're actually in a relationship with, so they can make up their mind as to whether to change or not if they want to continue to be in a relationship with who you actually are, as opposed to who you think you should be.
Yes, this is so helpful. I really appreciate this. Thank you so much.
You are very welcome. Does this help you?
It does. I very much so. Thank
All
you.
right.
Well, thank you.
Have fun.
Thanks.
Good day.
You too.
Always.
Greetings, Bashar. My question is, one night I had a dream where the apartment I live in was haunted. It was a pretty vivid dream. And in the morning, when I got up, I was doing my morning routine. And at one point, I thought about that dream. And when I did, the lights in my kitchen flickered. And they've never done that before, and they haven't done that since. Is there a connection? Thank you, and have a great day.
Someone in spirit is attempting to get your attention. So pay attention to it. Be positive in your vibration. And whatever positive energy or information needs to come through from spirit, you'll eventually make the connection more consciously and receive that information. So just know that something is attempting to get your attention, and stay in a positive state with that idea. You will receive what you need to receive eventually. Good day.
Good day to you, Bashar.
Good day. What would you like to discuss this day?
My first question, although I think I have been a fairly good person most of my life, there are a few things I regret doing, one of which caused some memory loss. The memories have started to return slowly over time, but they are fragmented and incomplete.
All right.
Is there a way to streamline my memory recovery and become whole again?
Well, have you learned to do something different from this experience?
Yes. I've mostly been relying on rosemary oil, sleeping
I
longer.
don't need to know the details. I don't need to know the details.
Okay.
I'm just asking you in general. Whatever it is you did that you say you now regret doing, have you learned from the experience and are now doing something differently that you believe is more in alignment with your true self? Yes or no?
Yes.
Then there is no need for regret anymore, is there? If you're learning from it?
I guess not.
The regret is weighing you down and holding you back. That's the way to streamline yourself. If you acknowledge that something has been done that you don't prefer yourself to do, and you have been willing to allow yourself to learn a lesson from it and change who you are and do things differently that's more in alignment with who you truly need to be, regret does not have a place in that formula. The regret served a purpose in simply getting you to recognize that it was not something you prefer to be. Once you recognize that, there is no more room for the regret. It has done its job. It served its purpose. So let it go. Yes?
Yes.
That will streamline you and move you forward. Does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you.
You are welcome. Anything else?
How can we see auras and the flow of spiritual energy around us?
By raising your vibration, which you are on the path of doing. It will happen naturally. Of course, you may attract yourself to some methodology, and if that permission slip works for you to increase your ability to stretch your senses to perceive those energetic things, then that's fine too. Trust synchronicity will bring you what you need. But the idea, again, is that as you allow yourself to become more and more of who you are and move forward, your vibration will increase, and a natural result of your vibration increasing will be that your senses will begin to see things that you heretofore couldn't. So it's just a natural part of your evolution.
What can we do to improve if we go into a meditative state, but we're not making any progress?
Well, it depends on what you define as progress. What are you insisting must happen when you go into a meditative state? Insisting that something particular must happen is actually the opposite of being in a meditative state.
Well, if you're sitting in meditation, but you're only experiencing a dark void.
What's wrong with that? Dark voids are quite beautiful.
I was hoping to get a little bit more out of the experience.
Well, maybe that kind of experience is not designed for something you actually find workable. Or again, you're bringing too much insistence and expectation in what you think it's supposed to do. Maybe you have other ways of meditating, maybe not. But I just gave you the hint that if you explore the dark void itself, you may find there's more there than you think, instead of insisting that something else should be happening other than the dark void. Maybe the dark void is exactly where all the information you seek lies. Think about the dark void in a different way. Define it in a different way, and maybe it will surprise you as to how much the dark void actually contains. But don't be insistent about it. That's exactly the opposite of the state of meditation.
Okay.
Remember, there are active meditations too. Are you acting on your highest excitement as often as you possibly can? Hesitation usually means no.
Right. That's exactly what I was going to say. No.
So why
I'm
not?
not.
Why not? What's holding you back from doing so?
Fear of the unknown, most likely.
Why do you fear the unknown? The only thing you'll ever discover in the unknown is more of yourself.
I'll take that under consideration, Bashar.
You may take it under consideration for as long or short as you wish.
What's the best way to consistently contact the angelic realm?
Do you have a way that you prefer to open up to the idea of the angelic realm? What does your imagination and creativity conjure for you when you think of making contact with the angelic realm?
Usually I try to raise my vibration so that I can get into the mind state of a higher being.
All right, but don't make it so difficult when you say try to raise your vibration. When you open up to the idea, the very thought, the very concept of connecting to the angelic realm, how does that idea feel to you?
Great. I mean, I feel good when I'm trying to do so.
All right. So understand, it's not about trying to do so. When you feel good by just simply conceptualizing doing that, you are raising your vibration. Because understand the trick. Remember when we said, if you have heard us say this, that you cannot conceive of what you're not the vibration of already?
Yes, I remember you saying that.
Therefore, even being able to conceive of the idea of connecting to the angelic realm means you're already in the proper state to do so. Otherwise, you would never be able to even conceive of doing something like that. That's the trick. Does that make it easier?
Yes, it does.
There you go.
Uh,
Again, don't have insistences or expectations on how that must actually respond to you. It may respond in a number of different ways, through synchronicity, a number of different ways. So don't have an insistence and say, oh, it's not working because I'm not hearing an angel talk to me or blow a trumpet in my ear. Just make the connection, know that you're making the connection, know that they're receiving it, and know that the response will come in whatever way actually serves you best. And therefore, don't limit the way you are able to receive it by insisting that it must happen in the way your physical mind thinks it should. Just let it come in the way that actually works best. So do it, make the connection, know you've made the connection, know there will be a response, and then let it go and get on with your life. And it will come.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It's all about not trying too hard. It's just about doing it. It's just about knowing that you're doing it because you understand how physics works and knowing that you wouldn't be able to conceive of making a connection to the angelic realm if you weren't already in the vibration state to do so. Therefore, it's done. The minute you conceive of it, it's done. Then go on to the next thing that excites you and let synchronicity bring you whatever needs to bring you in perfect timing and in a perfect methodology. It will be recognized by you for what it is when it needs to be. Until that moment, just move on.
Okay.
Keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate it. Don't overthink it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Will that help?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
All right.
There was an incident in the Barney and Betty Hill alien abduction case, where an alien being put his hands over a book and was able to absorb the knowledge within it. Are we capable of the same thing?
Absolutely. Remember, information is available anywhere and everywhere. You just have to resonate at the same frequency as the information that you seek. And it's exactly the same idea that we just explained to you about the idea of making contact with the angelic realm. Just know that the very concept itself contains the vibration you need to be at. And then just let the information come when it needs to come. You don't always need every single piece of a book. You will get what you need.
Were the feats of King Solomon in the Bible real or just a fable?
Some of them are real, some of them are misinterpretations, some of them are for the idea of making a point.
Okay. And with your species, do you have a concept of marriage?
Not in the way that you do. Our entire society considers itself to be married to everyone else.
Oh, that's impressive.
If you say so. It's just who we are.
And as of right now, are you happy?
Always. I am never not happy.
And how do you maintain that level of happiness?
Why would I choose anything else? That's the answer. What reasons would I create for myself to choose anything but happiness?
Point made.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You are welcome. Aveo.
Aveo.
Hi, Bashar. It's my understanding that I'm a precursor being. If this is true, it would also appear that I came here for the purpose of creating, inventing a communications tool. My question is this true? Was my major purpose to create this tool? And is this project considered a success? Thank you.
It may be one of your purposes. Now, you have a misunderstanding about the term precursor. Precursors are not from Earth. They are hybrid beings that may arrive from time to time on Earth and walk among you to see if you can actually perceive the difference between them and a typical human. You are not a precursor in that context. But you are part, like many people, of the evolution of humanity who may have come through to create certain things that can help accelerate that. The idea of communication devices is one way in which many people who are part of the evolutionary acceleration may assist in that acceleration and evolutionary path. But you are not technically a precursor.
Hello, Bashar.
Good day, good day.
It is Victoria, and it's wonderful to meet with you.
And you as well, Moon Pie.
I have a couple things that I'd like to talk to you about.
Yeah.
The first is I have found a place that I have landed, per se, so I have moved to.
Which is?
I am very close to Joshua Tree at this time.
All right.
Yes. And I'm starting to get to know the place a little bit better.
Joshua Tree will transform you into someone else, into another aspect of your being.
Right. I feel that. And it's funny because this is one of the, I never expected to land here. So it is different. But that's okay. And I'm still learning the land. And I was wondering if you had anything that you would recommend checking out in the park while I am here.
One moment. There is a type of desert mouse, that making a connection to this animal in some way, shape, or form, whether it is indigenous to the area or not, but represents an environment similar to that area, would create the proper vibration to allow you to experience a type of connection that will draw you deeper into the earth and help you understand a connection to the natural world that will allow you to receive communications more strongly to your heart from Gaia, from Mother Earth, in a way that will transform your perspective on many things in the physical world with regard to the energies you can perceive from different people and different environments that will guide you to your true self. We are given to say this in this way specifically by higher guides and higher mind. End of transmission for that subject.
Thank you so much. And thank you to the higher guides and guardians. I appreciate that. And I will explore that.
All right.
Also, as you know, the Day of the Dead, Halloween, All Saints Day has passed, and
All Souls.
And All Souls, yes, thank you. And for this day, I did like a ceremonial altar, like for my ancestors. Yes. Very simple, but I was contemplating, honoring their memory and their life. And I was thinking about how like more have passed on to spirit now, and how I know we're all connected, but it shifts my perspective on life in certain ways and the future.
How so?
Well, I feel like seeing their lives and then reflecting like on my life, and I'm like, okay, as I'm passing and living life, what essence am I leaving upon the planet?
Yes.
And that's just, it's become more important and more like of a focal point to me.
Yes, this is one of the reasons why it was recommended to get in touch with that particular small desert mouse. It is the essence of humbleness.
Very interesting. Okay. So that being said, I was wondering during this time period where the veils are thin, is obviously it's a time that we can connect with animal earth, or animal spirits that have passed on, families that has passed on, but is it also a time where we can connect to other galactic, say, races or dimensional time periods because the veil is thinner outside of just the human type of...
Absolutely. Now, again, these things are always available, but when you say the veil is thinner, it's simply the representation archetypally of the collective consciousness's willingness and ability to open up to other realities.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that.
The willingness to open up to other realities. The willingness to open up to other realities. Take that into your dreams and see what blossoms when you plant that seed.
I will. And it's funny because you mentioned dreams, and I haven't been remembering my dreams lately, and I feel the need to remember them more. So
when you get back to being your true self in your true heart and your true core vibration. You will.
Thank you, Bashar. I truly appreciate you and all of you.
Our deep appreciation for you as well. Good day, Moon Pie.
Good day.
Good day.
Greetings. Greetings, Bashar. Thank
Good day
you
to
for the
you.
opportunity to speak with you.
It is our passion and our pleasure. Thank you for the co-creation.
Thank you. My name is Callie, and I'm living in the Sacred Valley of Peru near Machu Picchu.
All right.
And yeah, there's lots of amazing energies here. And I don't know if you have any updates on what's going on in this area.
We do, but none to share.
None to share. Okay.
Except,
all right.
except, one of our kind has recently arrived in that area to monitor certain energies. You may connect to them if you wish. It is similar to the idea of our craft over Sedona. Another of our species has arrived over that area of Peru. For a variety of reasons we will not go into, but you may connect to their vibration if you wish.
Wow. Okay. I've done a lot of work in Machu Picchu at the Templo de Condor, the Condor Temple, and had a lot of visions there years ago. And it's actually what brought me to live in Peru after the once the pandemic started. And I'm wondering, is that Machu Picchu is so close by? We're in the last town before Machu Picchu, and the train leaves from here. So we're very much a portal. And I'm wondering, do you suggest that I do some more work in Machu Picchu, or that perhaps they're coming there?
As we said, you may connect to another member of our society in that area who has recently arrived.
Wonderful. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. My next question, the 51% rule that you talked about recently. I've been called Pollyanna by many people because I tend to put a positive spin on things all the time and find the teachings and everything. And when you shared the 51% rule, I felt really validated and kind of fed my ego a bit. And I'm just wondering if you can give us any tips on how to stay in that place. Because sometimes I definitely slip.
Why would you leave it? When you slip, it's a choice to leave. What reasons do you give yourself in your belief system that should be your choice?
Well, because I've been told not to negate the negative. And it seems like
You don't negate the negative by knowing that it's there. You become more aware of its existence. The idea is that you simply make a choice to experience it in a positive way. I'm not saying that you call the negative a positive thing. You recognize it for what it is energetically. But you use it to your advantage by remaining in a positive state. That's very different than being naive.
Okay. All right. Well, like I said, it kind of fed my ego quite a bit. The 51%, once I was validated in my Pollyanna-ness. So that's something that I need to work with as well. Feeling that I'm better than others when I do stay positive.
Yes, you are not better than others. You are simply making different choices that are more in alignment with who you truly are. But again, it's not out of naivete. If you understand how things work, you'll become even more aware of the negativity. It's just that you will have no reason to choose it.
Okay, very good. That's helpful.
Thinking of yourself as better than others is a choice of negativity.
Absolutely. It's an ego temptation every once in a while that I realize is not healthy. So
it's a negative ego.
Negative ego. Yeah.
It's not ego. Ego keeps you focused in physical reality in its natural state. There is nothing negative about the concept of the ego because it's doing a job, keeping you focused in physical reality, since physical reality isn't real. You need some sort of framework, like the ego, to allow you to stay focused in something that is a simple projection of your consciousness and knowing that it isn't really real. So the ego has a job, but it's not the negative ego. The negative ego is when you tell the ego that it's the sole controller and it's better than anything else and it determines everything. That's not its job. It's not designed to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But if you make it think that it
That's
is,
helpful.
then you wind up with the negative ego.
Okay. Wow, that's good to keep in mind. Thank you. The next question I have is about control. And you had mentioned recently that if we release control, then we would find that everything is in our control. And I've certainly heard this from many, many people. I'm wondering, can you suggest how to catch ourselves when we forget?
Well, do you not recognize when you have gone into the limited version, when you understand how things work, will you not know when you have gone into the limited version of the idea of control?
Absolutely. I know when I'm there, I just kind of,
Then
I
stay
sort
there
of
for your own reasons.
shock.
Well, that's all right. Again, it's not about being better than that. It's about accepting what is and learning from it. That's how you use it. Why am I here? Why am I experiencing this? Why am I choosing to experience this? Is there something for me to learn here by having chosen that? Do I have a belief system I'm still holding on to that I'm not aware of? What would that belief system be that would make it seem like a logical choice to come back to this place? If I understand how things work, what would be the reason that would be so overwhelming that I would choose to be here again? Examining yourself deeply that way will be able to use that particular state of being in a way that can benefit you if you learn a lesson from it. Learn what the belief systems are that would make it seem logical to keep choosing to go there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe it's kind of like a worthiness thing, questioning my ability to communicate when things are in a heated situation, for example.
Oh, all right. And why do you think yourself unworthy of proper communication in those situations? Why do you succumb to the lower vibration?
Because my mind goes blank. If I'm, if I'm in an energy that feels overwhelming, and
all right,
I kind of lose it.
Do you not understand that your mind going blank can actually be a benefit to you?
I'd like to work with that, definitely.
Well, if your mind goes blank, then you're not going to necessarily offer a negative reaction to something, are you?
No, unless you call it passive aggressive, that I say nothing.
Do you wish to define that way?
Definitely don't. Definitely don't. But I feel like in order to remedy the situation, the conversation.
What makes you think you're supposed to? What makes you think you're supposed to remedy it?
Well, I feel like I need to do my part in trying to.
How do you know that doing your part? How do you know that doing your part isn't to remain silent and let the other person recognize their issues that they're projecting on you?
Well said. Yes, I believe that.
All right. Again, not because you're better than, but just because you're offering a blank slate for that person to bounce off of and get a reflection for themselves of the projections that they may be putting onto you of their own issues. You don't have to remedy anything. Again, you're trying to be in charge. You're trying to be in control. I have to rescue. I have to save. I have to fix. No, you don't.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And when you relax into that state of it being okay to go blank, you will come out of it more likely than not with the perfect response that gives them the opportunity to face the issues that they are going through.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. Silence can be very helpful to kind of recalibrate things.
And if nothing else, after the silence, you can perhaps even make a suggestion to the other person. Is that what you really wished to say? Is that what you really wish to say? I'm giving you an opportunity to rethink what you just said and decide if that's what you really wish to say. If it is, that's fine. But I'm giving you an opportunity to decide whether you would like to communicate something differently at this particular moment. And it is the blankness that would allow you to do that, allow you to come up with that kind of a response. Does that help?
Just dropping into presence and dropping into
Yes.
My higher self in that silence definitely opens the opportunity
Yes.
for
Because
right
you would
communication, for
know.
good communication.
Yes, because you would know that when people communicate harshly, it's usually not representative of what they actually wish to talk about. It's usually just something on the surface that's a cover for their fear of facing the issue at hand. And if you give them the chance, if you give them the opportunity to rethink it, many of them will.
Right. Wow. That's helpful. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Pleasant
Thank you.
dreams.
Hello, Tadeo.
Nania.
We have a lot of great questioners from our viewers.
All right.
I think we'll start with some open contact questions.
Yes.
When it comes to open contact, will your people be contacting individuals or small groups first, then the planet, or the entire planet all at once? If you'll be or will you be going with individuals, and could a group get together and be specifically prepared for contact? Can you tell us what steps to take?
Follow the formula. Again, raising your vibration to a certain level will allow synchronicity, the organizing principle, to determine exactly who and how many individuals will be involved in any particular moment of contact. It can be individuals, it can be groups. Most likely, it will eventually be your entire planet or the remaining population in the version of Earth that has shifted to the reality of contact. But again, these things are not completely determined at this time. But again, following the formula as precisely as possible will allow you to become more probably involved in whatever way is appropriate and relevant for those individuals at that time.
So basically, there will probably be some individuals that are contacted as individuals. There'll be some groups that are contacted. And specifically, it wouldn't necessarily be your people, but it would probably be other ET civilizations.
We will not be the first, but we will eventually join in. And again, the answer still applies. We may start with individuals, we may start with groups. It depends on the vibration at the time and what it is that your people have already experienced with regard to the first extraterrestrials that would initiate open contact.
So for like those groups that get together, say out in the desert or in other locations and look for ETs and specifically for the purpose of contact, that kind of repetitive behavior, could that heighten the potential for contact for that group?
Yes.
That sounds fun, and especially if everybody loves doing it, right?
Yes, really only if everyone loves doing it.
Mm. And how does first contact work on a global scale? For example, do aliens know all the different languages, and how do they go about contact based on the different cultures and tribes?
Different extraterrestrials may learn certain languages that belong in certain regions of your planet, or they may also use telepathic communication if the population is ready to receive such. There will be a variety of ways of communicating with individuals on your planet. Again, remember, certain kinds of contact will not occur until certain groups of individuals are ready for it. And being ready for it may mean that they are capable of receiving telepathic communications, and or, to make it simpler, sometimes, as we said, some extraterrestrials will learn the local language.
Can you share with us who will be the most likely species that we will have contact with first?
Most likely, Pleiadian species of different types. The ones that are closest to you genetically, your cousins, in a sense.
Is that true that Pleiadians seem to exhibit some of the most beautiful aspects of humans in terms of their visual appearance?
We understand what you mean by that, and I suppose the simple answer would be yes.
Okay. And if Bashar, the entity, is a collective, then upon open contact, will each major nation on Earth get its own Bashar clone to speak with?
No, Bashar, myself, is not a collective. I am an individual. I am telepathically connected to my species and many other beings, but I myself am not a collective in that sense that it was meant. Everyone will get their own representative, be it a member of my species or other species.
And will we see a lot of technological innovation and at an accelerated pace as contact gets closer and closer?
As contact gets closer, you will see some, and after contact, you will see more.
So will it act as kind of a triggering energy, similar to like in 2001: A Space Odyssey?
Similar in some ways, yes. Again, remember, we have said that when you discover forms of life, either in your own solar system or elsewhere, based on your technology, your probes, your telescopes, so on and so forth, that will also start a trigger in the mindset that outside of your planet, life is possible. And therefore, that alone will change the mindset sufficiently to begin an acceleration and a refocusing and a perspective change in your society, or at least those that are aligned with that idea.
Would you say that 2033 is also going to be an important year for contact, for first contact?
Yes, and an especial acceleration between 2033 and 2040.
Does the Interstellar Alliance have a post office? Is there a service that ET societies use to deliver packages between planets? And can you tell us Essassani's intergalactic zip code and where their mailbox location is on Earth?
The idea of a post office does not exactly exist in the Interstellar Alliance. Sometimes, however, goods are traveled from one place to another on ships of a variety of types. Sometimes goods are simply created where they are needed immediately, depending upon the technology involved. The so-called zip code, as you call it, of my world is exactly the same as the phone number we have given you. A black background with a black equilateral triangle separated from the background by a deep blue light behind the triangle. This is the vibration that allows connection to our collective consciousness. I, in a sense, in what you call the North American region, am the so-called post office, since I am located above your Bell Rock in Sedona, Arizona. You could consider that location, because of my presence, a kind of hub for communication in the North American continent. There are others positioned in other places around the planet, and I suppose, using your language, they would be the so-called connection point, hub, or post office for those regions in communicating with extraterrestrial beings, not only from my own civilization, but with other civilizations as well.
Is there additional Essassani beings or Sassani beings that are currently now placing themselves around the planet?
There are those that have been around your planet, as I have been above Sedona. There are some that are coming in, not yet here, some just placing, but there have been many that have been placed for some time, as I have above Sedona.
And what do you all do while you're up there and holding the energy or whatever else it is that you do while you're there?
Well, we are feeding different kinds of energy into the vortices in those areas to help balance out the idea of the collective energy of your world and make transitions easier should you choose to align and match the frequencies we are giving off in those areas. At the same time, remember that time for us is not what it is for you. We can do many things and communicate with many different beings and be in many different places simultaneously, as it would appear to be from your perspective, even though to us, it may seem to be somewhat different.
Are there specific species that are monitoring what's going on at the nuclear silos and guess keeping watch to ensure that there's no accidents that would destroy our planet?
Yes.
Can you tell us which species?
No.
Let's see. When humans learn the true understanding of our planet's history, will our attitude towards crime and the ways of handling crime change from our perspective?
Potentially, this will start to occur before the idea of the history is revealed to your world. And remember, it will be the history of the moment.
Can you elaborate on that?
Well, as we have said, every time you shift and change, you change your history as well as your so-called future, because everything exists simultaneously. And as you make a shift into a new version of you, both individually and collectively, you go into a parallel version of Earth that has a completely different history. The history that linearly would have been necessary for you to experience being a different person at this particular moment in the present. So when we reveal the idea, when we give you the gift of the history of your world, it'll be the history of the version of Earth that is making open contact. Not that there aren't other versions, but each version will have its own history slightly different from every other.
Does that mean that people of similar vibrations will hear the same history, whereas people of other vibrations will hear a completely different history?
Potentially, yes. Those of a similar vibration may hear a history similar enough that they can all agree that it is their momentary history. Others with different vibrations will hear different versions of history.
Is that also a symptom of what we're seeing on Earth now, where many people have their own version of reality that seems to have nothing to do with other people's versions of reality?
Yes, it is a symptom of the splitting prism.
And will the hybrid children, when they come here, will they exhibit less emotionality than we do?
Not less. They may not have the full range of emotions in the sense of negative ones, so to speak, but what they exhibit may actually be more full-bodied than even you typically as humans express.
The idea that humans express a lot of what could be called drama or emotional drama, will these children be less prone to those kinds of choices?
Yes. They will be more evenly balanced emotionally.
Okay, and when we're interacting with other ET species, what kinds of things will we do for fun? Like, we like to go out to lunch or go to a movie or those kinds of entertainment, and interacting with ETs, I would imagine, would be quite different than that.
It depends on the activity. Some extraterrestrials may enjoy joining humans in some of the typical activities on Earth, but there will also be other activities they will bring with them that humans may also learn to enjoy. I'm not going to give you a list at this time.
Okay, well, I guess somebody was asking, do ETs dance? I mean, will they enjoy dancing with us?
Many do, yes.
Okay. And one person was talking about an experience they had where they had a dream encounter or potentially an actual encounter with a mantis being, and they found it quite disturbing. But then when they drew a picture of it and sort of journaled on it, they actually found it to be quite fascinating.
Yes.
What would you describe as the process that's happening here that helps that person arrive at that?
Sometimes actually projecting it out in front of you in some way, shape, or form, like a drawing, can allow it to then be reflective to you in a different way, from a different point of view, a different perspective, so that it doesn't necessarily remain in the idea of your subconscious or unconscious mind, where you don't necessarily know how to relate to it. By putting it out in front of you, you can develop a different form of relationship with different beings. This is why we suggested, and still continue to suggest, the exercise of creating a cutout of different extraterrestrials, such as the Greys and hybrids and so on and so forth, and putting them outside your windows and doors, because by relating to them that way, as if they are truly physically there in your reality, but outside your house, you can begin to develop a different relationship that allows you to determine on your own terms when you are comfortable enough to interact with them more closely.
And can you skip this version of Earth and teleport yourself to a version that's already had contact? And why is this process so important?
This is the process that most of you have chosen so that you can develop a true appreciation for the manifestations of contact that will ultimately occur. Many of you simply wish to go through the process so that you are properly prepared. Many of you think you're prepared, but you're not, because we are very different than you might think. We are not some science fiction extraterrestrial that will simply land and be similar to you. Our vibrations are very different. Many species are very different from you, and preparation is necessary for the path that you have chosen in terms of your experience of physical reality. So do not be impatient. It will be worth the wait.
And can you talk a little bit about your feminine counterpart, Anima? What role does she play in your life? How can we strengthen our relationships with our male and female counterparts on Earth and beyond?
Well, again, by examining your belief systems and letting go of the ones that are outdated, outmoded, old-fashioned, and forming no balance within yourselves and recognition and respect of equality. Differences, of course, are valuable, but the idea is that fundamentally you are all equal in that context. The idea of Anima as a social engineer accompanies us many times on first contact scenarios, especially after open contact, to help guide and suggest and encourage different kinds of social engineering in societies than that society may have been used to for its history. So the idea is that Anima will also be present in many cases when we arrive, and will help with the reconfiguration and social engineering of the systems on your planet to the greatest benefit of your entire population. In other words, you may call her, in that sense, a sociological efficiency expert.
Is she actually your feminine counterpart, and what does that mean?
It means we are extensions of the same oversoul.
And so do you commonly, when you're doing first contact work, do you do it with Anima?
And others, yes. She is my primary because of our soul connection.
And can you tell us a little bit about the frequency of first contact? Like, you've helped us understand that human beings operate at different frequency ranges,
Yes.
and that the higher frequency states tend to be between 175,000 and up to about...
Yes. Open contact will require a stable frequency above 200,000 cycles per second.
Really? Yes.
Yes.
So are you saying the vast majority of people on the planet as it stands now, would not experience first contact.
Correct. At least
And
not yet in their reality, in their version of Earth. They may change and experience it later on, but again, we are not expecting the idea, due to the probabilities of choices that you have on your planet, the vast majority that exists now, to be the majority that will exist during open contact. Those that shift to the other Earth will join those already there, already existing in that alternate reality, and they will form a new majority. But the majority of the individuals on your planet now, as you understand it, on the version of Earth you experience now, will not experience contact with us in the way that you understand that concept. They may
now,
experience other things.
when you say contact with you, are you talking about the Sasani beings, or are you talking about Pleiadian and other
There is
species?
a range. There is a range. Some may experience every variation you can imagine. Some will not experience us at all.
So if you're on the Earth now where you can see the other realities, the negative ones that are happening on the planet, but you're seeing it through the glass wall in that sense, will that be the case for those who experience contact where they can see so many divergent realities?
Some may be capable. For some, it will simply not be relevant for them to perceive it that way. It depends on the individual and the theme that they are exploring and what they will do with that.
Do you expect then that large segments of the population would literally disappear from the reality of those that are going to have contact?
Yes.
Okay, and so that would not necessarily, how would that occur? How would that occur?
You are constantly shifting, remember.
Yes.
It may not actually be such a big mystery. The idea would be, just like sometimes you have contact with individuals you call friends, and then sometimes years later you simply find that you haven't seen them for quite a while, and you don't necessarily think anything of it. You just imagine they have gone on to their own path, and that your paths will not necessarily cross again. You may have different ideas about what that experience will be like, but it won't necessarily be a mystery for many. It'll simply be like people have simply left your life, have gone out of your life. Some may appear to have died, but some may simply not be around for so long that you simply don't think about them anymore, or you wonder where they went, but never encounter them again.
So I would imagine it's not an accident that we're simultaneously going through massive climate change and potentially a massive extinction event in coordination
Not
with
going
the...
to be talking about anything in the way of a prediction, but yes, such things are possible with the shifts going on, because again, you're shifting through versions of Earth. So you may experience a variety of things that are all representative of the splitting prism until you make decisions to align with a particular timeline or path and other versions of Earth that will take you in a different direction.
Well, this will probably make more sense to us as we become more and more used to the level of plasticity where the Earth can shift a great deal, our realities can shift a great deal. And some of the skills that we're learning right now are how to navigate changing realities that may let you feel unmoored or not as grounded to a specific reality.
Yes, temporarily, but it will become a normal state for you, a state you will get used to in the constant idea of shifting, because the more you understand that you are projecting and creating your physical reality, the less you will rely on the idea of stasis as a representation of stability, and the more you will feel comfortable with the idea that change is truly what is stable.
So that would figure into the idea that many humans do not enjoy change, or they believe that change is uncomfortable, fearful, creates anxiety.
Yes.
Those kinds of things is, in a sense, a skill set that we're learning, is how to be in physical reality or as physical reality with greater amounts of change and seemingly unmoored realities without having getting panicky.
It is not getting used to more change. It is getting used to the idea that you're constantly changing.
Because you mentioned when you're in spirit, you can navigate change quite easily.
Yes.
It's the natural flow. You're always experiencing the next chapter in a sense.
And you are doing so even in physical reality, since that's nothing but a projection of consciousness. Again, it's just that most people on your planet are not aware of it because of the agreement you made to experience the idea of linear time and continuity. But once you accept the idea that you're constantly shifting billions of times per second, you can get used to that idea and form a new understanding and relationship with the idea of change as stability.
So the disorientation that humans often experience around change, this is an issue of definition and attitude?
It is an issue of definition and perspective and attitude, yes. Because again, you're already doing it. That's the irony. You're already changing all the time. You're never the same from moment to moment. It's just about understanding how that serves you in experiencing physical reality.
Is part of our resistance to change the idea that we have to redefine ourselves under new circumstances?
Part of it, yes.
And that perhaps we haven't developed that skill as well as we could have it expressed if we were more clear about who we are and what we're doing here and how this is all happening.
Yes, and those that choose to follow the formula as precisely as possible will find that they actually come to quite enjoy the idea of constant change, because constant change is also the ability to constantly redefine yourself in the way that you prefer to. And therefore, it gives you a sense of freedom.
Now, I know you pretty much answered this question, but I do want to ask it again through the way that this person expressed it. They said, you've talked about how the splitting prism is expanding. In the coming period, is it likely that we will experience sudden dramatic splits where significant parts of the population who are incompatible with the collective vibration suddenly vanish, similar to what you described in the Sasani Shikana experience?
Yes, it's possible. For many people, they may choose to do it a little bit more gently. But yes, it's absolutely possible for someone to have a continuity break like that with linear time.
You had mentioned the eye of the needle. Can you tell us where we are with regard to the eye of the needle, and how and when will we know if we've transitioned to the new Earth?
You are constantly transitioning. You need to stop, first of all, talking about it as if you're just going from one Earth to another Earth. You have to spread the idea out over the fact that you are constantly transitioning. But in terms of arriving, so to speak, you never stop transitioning. It's just that you will start to notice eventually that the versions of Earth you are transitioning through, you are shifting through, will be more representative of the kind of reality that you prefer, will be rife with synchronicity to your advantage, will be joyful and constantly creative. So you will know when you arrive at the time stream of the different versions of Earth that you will continue to go through, that'll be more and more reflective of that state of being. You will recognize it, but that doesn't mean you've stopped shifting. It doesn't mean you've stopped going from one version to another. It's just that you have constantly now gotten to the point where you choose only versions that reflect the idea of what we just described.
And is there anything you can share with us about the things that are happening sort of behind the scenes that are increasing the probability of certain events on the planet?
Well, again, I and others are pumping different kinds of vibrational frequencies into the vortices around your planet to give you more opportunities to make decisions based on your preferred choices, to make it easier for you to transition without going through the idea of shock treatment. So the idea is whether or not you're willing to really look deeply within yourselves, let go of the belief systems that don't serve you, and align your frequency with the frequencies that we are sending into these vortices that you can take advantage of if you are willing.
Okay. We have some questions about reincarnation. One of them is, can you please explain the idea of planning our next incarnation when in spirit, if everything exists here and now? Is it just the structure that exists and we are choosing an avatar like playing a video game for a new experience to evolve?
In a sense, but it's not an avatar that's detached from you. It is you in the way that you wish to configure yourself for a particular experience. Imagine that you are in an art gallery with many different pictures on the walls. They're all there all at once, but you've decided, I'm going to focus on this painting for a while, and I'm going to explore it for a while. Then you become the experience of exploring that painting. But then you can step back, go into spirit, and look at some other paintings. They all exist at the same time, but from your perspective in spirit, in a timeless state, you get to see them all, but you get to focus on what you wish to experience. It's similar to that analogy.
Okay, and you've said that we are a different person every moment.
Yes.
But you also say that we are only ever who we are now. How do these ideas go together? Can this be used to explain how we create the experience of reincarnation for ourselves without actually changing who we are?
Yes, but you must be careful about the way your language is used here, because when we say who we are, it depends on who we means. The idea of the core you, the core we, the core being that you are, the core reflection of all that is, that never changes. It's your identity, and you experience everything from the perspective of what it means to be you. But when you're talking about the idea of creating personality constructs or different representations of your core being, that can shift. So the idea is that the shell you create, so to speak, roughly, around yourself as a personality or a presentation of who you are as the core being of your existence, that can shift and can give the core being a variety of different experiences. The core never changes, but the idea of the clothing that you wear, the presentation that you create, the projection or personality that you may create for different experiences can constantly shift. So we're talking about two different levels of we or I, just to be clear.
Okay. And if we experience all the ripple consequences of our actions during the life review, wouldn't that extend infinitely beyond our life? Or is the review just limited to what happened during that certain period of that particular life on Earth?
It's a matter of relevance. If something cross connects to something beyond the Earth, then you will experience that too as an effect. But the idea is there is a high degree of probable relevance to the idea of this specific life as this specific personality. And generally speaking, it usually remains focused on that particular personality experience because the rest of it simply isn't relevant.
And in your last transmission, you spoke about life review experience can feel traumatic in some ways to the spirit. But at other times, you've said that we experience this process without any negativity or self-judgment. Can you elaborate on this and help us understand and release any potential and fear around it?
This may not be something that you can truly understand until you experience it yourself. But if you imagine the idea of going to a movie on your planet where you're experiencing on the screen a character going through a traumatic experience. You can identify perhaps with the character. You can understand that what that experience may feel like, but it's not you per se. And therefore there is a slight detachment, even though you may be experiencing what might appear to be a version of trauma. It's done a little bit more detached, a little bit more removed than the idea of a true personal experience as you would have it in physical reality. It's an observation and an understanding that is deep, but it isn't exactly as visceral. as you might expect in physical reality. It's a little bit removed.
When someone goes through like past life therapy or a past life regression, and they seem to experience some release from that, how does
Yes.
that relate to the idea of life review? And would that change how you experience your life review?
It could, yes, absolutely. So the idea, again, is to understand that you make cross connections to other beings who exist at the same time you do, and therefore a so-called past life memory or a past life connection may simply act as a catharsis for you to let go of certain things that had to do with why you connected to that person's experience in the first place, and make it no longer necessary for you to continue to connect in the way that you did. As we have said, it's a dynamically changing process where you're plugging into people and unplugging from other people when it is no longer relevant for you to experience the connection you may have created between yourself and that other person energetically. So yes, coming to an understanding of why that connection happened and using it as a cathartic release may change the idea of how you experience certain elements of your life during the life review.
And also now, because we have television and news and everything, you're able to receive information about other people's lives that you may or may not identify with.
Yes.
And the idea of that, of hearing a story about something that perhaps a person is phobic about, and it amplifies that feeling of phobia, those kinds of ideas. Is it all about choice of recognizing you're making a cross connection to another person's experience, and you're always at choice about
Yes.
whether or not you need to amplify your own state of being by choosing that life to
Yes.
connect to?
Yes, yes, yes. The answer is yes.
So there's so much fascination on Earth, apparently, with violence and aggression and trauma and all of these kinds of things in our television programs and everything. Is this dangerous for people to be tapping into and amplifying certain states within themselves, or is it basically cathartic?
It depends on the individual and the limitations they have imposed upon themselves that determine how it is they may use that information. So again, case by case basis.
Why are humans so focused on the idea of murder and like murder mysteries and, you know, these shows that are all about that kind of thing?
It gives you a sense of control over things you believe you have no control over.
So it's just challenging to be a human being on Earth where there's a lot of violence, and basically these are coping mechanisms for us.
Yes, yes, they can be. They can be other things as well, but for the most part, they are coping mechanisms.
Yeah.
Again, the idea is that ultimately you will not need this. And again, remember that it's representative of getting everything out on the table because you're in the ending of the cycle of limitation upon your planet, at least to that degree. So all things have to be presented so you can really make rational choices about what kind of a reality you prefer to continue in.
Are the psychologists correct in the idea that in our history, when we had so many blood sports and ideas like that, and that now we seem to be focused on things like soccer and football and competitive sports, is this a promising transition for us to move away from violence and express it in a new way?
Don't you think so? Or would you
Yes.
rather retain the blood sports?
No, but that does show we've made progress, right? That we
Yes.
don't even seem as interested in war anymore as perhaps we were.
Yes, although obviously some individuals on your planet are.
Yes. This person is saying, this is the one thing I have not found an answer to in your many teachings. Can we shift to a reality where another person changes or heals? For example, my wife doesn't want kids and suffers from extreme anxiety. Is it possible to shift to a reality where she doesn't have mental health issues and she wants children? Is it possible to shift to a reality where a loved one heals from a terminal illness? And if possible, how does that work?
Well, again, it depends upon the individual path. Individuals can examine their belief systems, their fear-based negative belief systems, and choose to let them go, whereupon they may release the idea of phobias and even certain diseases and illnesses. As we have mentioned, your own medical professionals have witnessed that in what you typically call multiple personality disorder, that one personality can have a disease and another personality in the same body doesn't have it at all. So yes, those shifts are possible, but it's not about avoiding the issues. It's not about jumping over them. It's about examining them, exploring them, investigating them, owning them, and finding out why they're there to begin with, and then letting them go so that you have a sense of empowerment. That sense of empowerment is what will allow the shifts to happen so that those particular symptoms or conditions may no longer need to exist. But it's not about avoiding it. You can't just jump over it to another reality if there is no relevance for why it was created to begin with, if there's no lesson learned, because it's there for a reason. And the individuals, whether they're experiencing it as a bystander or whether they're experiencing it as an actual individual, there's a reason why those things exist, and it requires deep understanding of the self and deep exploration of the belief systems to allow yourself to truly be empowered to make a shift with full consciousness as to why you created that challenge for yourself to begin with.
So in circumstances where an individual is faced with the potential loss of a loved one because of illness or an accident or something like that, and many people will choose at that point to pray to a higher power and ask, please, please let this person live, etc. Almost coming from a place of insistence because it means so much to that person. Can you help us understand more about what's happening in that scenario? Sometimes the person lives, sometimes they don't, and the prayer doesn't seem to be answered.
Prayers are always answered, as you say on your planet. It's just that sometimes the answer is no. So the idea is to understand that many people create what we'll call choice nodal points in the themes that they chose to explore. In other words, there's a little bit of a roulette wheel there as to which way things could go. So appealing to the idea is an exploration of the possibility that some of those nodal points may exist in the present circumstance or situation, and that a person might have set up the idea of the possibility of choosing a different path. So it's an appeal to the idea to explore whether that is so, or whether they have truly set themselves on a path that is irreversible.
Yeah, it's so fascinating because for some people, it just seems like they lose the person that they love the most, and it might be early in life, and it has a huge impact upon them. And some people are able to reinvent their lives going forward.
Yes.
And for others, somehow miraculously, the other person is saved and they go through a completely different experience.
These are all by certain forms of agreements, whether those agreements are made prior to the life or during. And there is purpose to everything and lessons to be learned in all of it. You have to look for them. You have to be open to them.
So even the idea that someone may feel abandoned by the person who died, particularly in early childhood, if they lose a parent or something like that, the challenge or the lesson or one lesson that one can learn from that kind of experience would be what?
Nothing actually leaves you. Everything is here and now, and it's about learning a different way of connecting and communicating with someone who has shifted in the way that they present themselves. The idea of teaching a child that there is a loss is what creates the sense of abandonment. But if there is no understanding that things are lost, but simply now operate on a different frequency that encourages you to stretch your senses into that frequency, it can become a powerful and profound learning experience of connection on a different level, back into the spirit, back into the true core of your being.
Thank you. This person is saying, I have shifted to a world which has very little hope and a lot of suffering. My friends, family, and countrymen are struggling and desperate. I can't help but feel responsible for their suffering, since since I would have to have shifted all of us to that reality with my beliefs. And what horrible beliefs they would have to be for me to be having this experience. That responsibility holds me back from shifting to a more positive experience because of guilt. How can I get out of this cycle?
First, by not being arrogant enough to think that you actually shifted anyone but yourself. You can't do that. The idea is you're not responsible for their choices. You can only be responsible to people to be yourself. You cannot be responsible for anyone else. They're making their choices. You can share guidance and ideas that may give them the options to choose different things. But if you are choosing to experience suffering and you wind up among others who are also experiencing that, they have each individually made the choice for whatever reason to be in that experience with you by agreement. You have not taken them there. You are not capable of taking anyone anywhere except yourself. So let go of the guilt that you are responsible for all those people. You don't have that power. So shift yourself into a living example of a reality that you find more preferable. And maybe as a living example, you will allow other people to choose to match the frequencies that you prefer and allow them the opportunity to shift themselves from a position of suffering into a reality of joy.
And regarding an individual finding themselves in a situation where, let's say, there's war around them and they're suffering and they want to shift their perspective, and at the same time the solidity of physical reality by having that kind of an environment is very challenging. Is there anything else you can add to how to interpret and deal with that kind of arduous human experience?
I would eliminate the way in which you ask that question utterly. And that would be the solution. I will let you ponder what we mean by that.
Okay.
Because you made it sound extremely inevitable, and it's not.
Well, it sort of reminded me of the movie, I guess it was A Beautiful Mind. No, it was some other movie where the person was in a Nazi situation, concentration camp, and
we
yet...
will no longer discuss this. We have answered it.
All right.
No more examples are required.
Okay. Well, thank you for what you have shared about that.
Yes.
This person's asking, when I actually transition to a better planet, what will happen to my family if they will not transition?
They will not transition. They will experience another version of Earth, as we have said.
And you've mentioned that we create our versions of of others with our own energy, filtered by our beliefs, such that we don't necessarily receive everything that they are sending us. I am curious how much this extends to plants and animals. How might we perceive them if we could take in everything plants and animals are transmitting to us?
You might perceive them similarly to some experiences that many of you have when you ingest teachers of the earth and go into altered states where you suddenly see more of the plant or more of the animal in terms of its spirit level, its energy level, so on and so forth. That is how you could perceive more of them.
And then you talk a lot about finding our unconscious negative beliefs, but do we also have unconscious positive beliefs? Are those activated when we are expecting something unpreferred to happen, but instead we are pleasantly surprised by a positive experience?
Yes, very often you may keep positive beliefs in a repository in your unconscious mind, and as a backup system for when you need them to break through the subconscious into your conscious mind the most. So sometimes that will be a mechanism many of you will employ to remind yourselves that you can choose to focus on the positive, even in the midst of what appears to be dire situations, and that things can shift around that and reflect back to you the idea that you have that so-called safety valve within you.
And people often talk about self-trust, saying things like trust your flow, trust your inner wisdom. But what parts of ourself should we trust and what parts should we question or doubt? Can we trust what feels good and right to us? And is it true that our thoughts that feel better to us are more aligned with our higher self?
Not necessarily, because people on your planet can fool themselves and can say, oh, this feels good, but what they're doing can actually be very negative. It's just that they are soothing themselves so they don't have to face the fact that they know deep down that what they're doing is negative. So it's not enough to just say, well, this feels good, and therefore I must be aligned with my true self, because of the compartmentalizations that can happen within your consciousness, where you can trick yourself into doing something negative and yet saying that this is a positive thing for me because it feels good. So I would suggest that you always pay attention to why something feels good and really go into an investigation to make sure that it is truly aligned with your core preferential self, your core vibration, and don't just take it for granted that it is. Because again, on Earth, you can fool yourself. So take the time to make sure that what you are actually doing is aligned with that vibration of your truth, your core.
So is it true then that you can't fool the universe, but you can fool yourself?
Absolutely. This is the planet of fools.
And it's all sort of like an equation of all your beliefs and your responses to the reality that determine the frequency of your being.
Yes.
And that,
for example, when I said yours is the planet of fools, there are some that will understand that laughter goes with that, and there are some that will take offense to it. And that means you already have a set up system of belief systems that determines how you choose to react to it. So that's a good test.
and as that part of our evolution also to be able to discern when we are fooling ourselves and when we're not. And the real litmus test is the reading by the universe of our vibrational state.
It's all about how you react to what happens. Remember, it's not about what happens, it's about what you do with what happens that determines the truth of your being.
So knowing that this is a projection of consciousness and the underlying mechanisms of how we're able to experience this can help bring you back to center.
Yes.
And help you change the way you respond to things that happen that may not be your preference.
Exactly. Because again, if you know that everything is there for a reason, then even things you don't prefer will be looked at objectively. And by staying in the positive state, you will extract the benefit from why it is there. But it takes self-examination and self-realization to be able to stay in a balanced state and know that you can use anything and everything that happens to your advantage.
And this next question actually is being answered as you speak, which is, can you help us understand how we can more consistently hold the preferred version of ourselves without flip-flopping back to the old versions of ourselves so we can allow the preferred versions to manifest more quickly?
Again, remember the motivational mechanism, because you always choose what you believe serves you. So if you know that you're choosing things that don't really serve you, look at the belief system to find out why you believe it does serve you. And that can mean why it prevents you from experiencing what you believe might be a worse situation, even though it might not actually be. So always go to, why do you believe what you believe? Why is the motivational mechanism to believe what you believe? Why is it there? What have you attached to it that makes you believe and act in the way that you do? Again, self-examination.
We have a couple questions regarding transgender.
Yeah.
This person's asking, I'm wondering if there are transgender people on your planet. And can you talk about any safety issues of transitioning medically here on Earth? Will people on Earth eventually be able to transition without medication? And what is it that transgender people may be teaching the people of Earth?
We cannot address the medical aspect of this. It's not allowed. But yes, it's possible eventually that people can shift into whatever they wish to shift without the idea of medical intervention. It just depends on your frequency and your vibration. We don't have the idea of transgender in the way you mean it on our planet, but we do have individuals that don't necessarily express any particular gender, depending on the theme that they are exploring. The idea of why Earth is expressly the idea, or appears to be the idea at first, of only male and female, is because of the polarities that you are exploring in the idea of the density in which you are exploring it. But the idea of transgender and the shifting of those things shows you that the spirit has no particular gender at all and can really be anything. And it is a help to have a reflection and a reminder of the idea that no one needs to remain necessarily completely fixed in any one particular identity, because you contain all sorts of identities and the potential for any identity that is relevant for a human being.
Thank you. And this person's asking about ascension symptoms, how we can deal with them. If they're just the product of negative beliefs. For example, this person is feeling over the moon, excited one day, and then the next day they have a headache, they feel lower, and it's gotten better over time, but they just keep wondering, why does that happen?
As we say, pain is resistance to the natural self, and you may have remnants, if you will, of belief systems that are still not completely cleared out of your system that cause resistance in your nervous system to the higher vibrational energies. Just keep going, follow the formula. It will smooth out eventually. As you let go of more negative beliefs, even little ones, and as you let go of things that are no longer relevant for you, even if they're not initially negative, you will smooth out and become more superconductive of the higher frequencies, and they will go through your nervous system more smoothly, without pain, without resistance.
And can we go at our own natural pace and still arrive at a good version of Earth? Or do we in any way have to somehow rush or push or pressure ourselves into growth and evolution in order to get to where we need to go?
We would think the answer to that would be obvious. If you're pushing yourself or rushing in an unnatural pace, that's the negative side of things and actually does not allow you to move forward. Therefore, allow yourself to find your own rhythm, your own pace. Don't drag your feet because of fears, but find the true natural pace that is correct for you, and you will wind up exactly, perfectly where you need to be.
And lastly, can you share a little bit about the state of inspiration, which I know many of us experience when we interact with you, particularly afterwards? There can be just an after effect of feeling very inspired and excited about life and all of those kinds of energies.
What you're doing in closely matching, or at least more closely matching, our vibration that we give off as an encouragement to all of you, is because you are closer to being your natural true selves. That's what it feels like. And what comes with it automatically is inspiration, because you are more connected to spirit. In spirit, in spiritu, inspiration. So the idea is that when there is less difference between your physical idea of yourself and your spirit idea of yourself, inspiration comes because you're more connected to more ideas, because you're connected to more of the universe. So by matching our frequency of encouragement to be more your new natural true self, you will feel inspiration because you're being more of who you are.
Thank you so much. We very much appreciate it. And we look forward to the next time we get to speak with you.
Well, look forward to the times that you learn to speak to yourself and be at one with your own higher minds, because that's what this is all a reflection of. So we thank you, our deep appreciation to all of you. And now, please, enjoy your brief meditation of appreciation.